section. She's published and presented extensively on Islamic spirituality and contemporary Islamic studies, and is co-editor-in-chief of the Australian Journal of Islamic Studies and Vice President of the Australian Association of Islamic Studies. Zuleyah, please welcome. The Australian Bishops' Commission for Ecumenism and Interreligious Relations has stated that Nostra Aetate is widely considered a watershed moment in the relations between Catholics and believers. It's also been called the Magna Carta of the Church's new attitude and approach to other religions. Scott, would you like, looking back over the last 60 years, to talk about whether you see it as a watershed moment, and is it the Magna Carta?
Okay. Thank you for the question. Is this on? There we go. There we go. Thank you so much for the question, Gabrielle. Yeah, I definitely see it as a watershed moment. I sort of alluded to that in some of my remarks earlier. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Nostra Aetate. I mean, I was hired in 2000 by Catholic Theological Union to, be the founding director of a Catholic Muslim Studies program, much like this one, that was to be the sister program of a Catholic Jewish Studies program that dated back to 1968, when the doors of Catholic Theological Union first opened in the immediate wake of the Second Vatican Council. All that happened because of that document. And, also, there are some folks within the church and outside the church that are rather skeptical about dialogue, let's put it that way. And it really does help, right, to have this significant document, the shortest in length, but in inverse proportion to its influence, to go back to read, to reflect upon. The Magna Carta thing is interesting because I think, I'm not sure, but I think when Pope Benedict used that, he meant it in the lowercase sense. Pope Benedict, most Vatican documents, probably are written in Latin. The incipit of every encyclical or document is the first couple of words. Nostra Aetate in our age, right? Magna Carta means Great Charter, right? I hope it doesn't mean the Magna Carta, because that has a very checkered history. One could argue whether it actually succeeded in realizing some of its greatest aspirations, in the sense that I think the Nostra Aetate is the Great Charter of Catholic, certainly of Christian Muslim or Catholic Muslim relations. I agree, but the Second Vatican Council, which produced this document, the guiding spirit was aggiornamento. Aggiornamento is the Italian word for update. In fact, if you set your iPhone to Italian, every time you want to update something, it says aggiornamento. So I think it's important that any great charter, to continue to be great, right, be updated and sort of brought into deeper conversation with changing circumstances.
Thank you, Scott. Zuleyah, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I would actually. I guess I'm looking at it from a Muslim perspective, and I think to have such a document at such a high level of leadership is quite profound. And we're talking about 60 years ago, that's quite a while ago, to recognise, I suppose it depends how you define recognise, or but recognise faiths other than Catholicism is quite significant. And I guess I'm thinking from a Muslim perspective, would Muslim leaders do the same? I know some would, obviously. Even within the Catholic Church, I'm sure there's a spectrum of how much people would have accepted or embraced something like this. But it is a big step, definitely. So I would say it definitely is a watershed moment. It probably took a while for it to be digested, and maybe some people are still digesting it. But it changes things, and it has. I do believe it has changed the way interfaith dialogue, or initiated interfaith dialogue, around the world.
Yeah. Thanks, Ismail.
really, when I look at the document, what I realize, following up Zuleyah's remarks, more than 2,000, nearly 3,000 people approve this document, confirm this document. And when we look at the community, big community, and when you look at the background, how this document emerged, I guess serious discussion and prolonged evaluation. Many Muslims really, they don't understand the core message of this document. They think why they really stuck few minor issues. Why Prophet Muhammad's name is not mentioned there, or why the Quran is not occurs in this document. But having spent all my life, academic life, how non-Muslims really try to understand Islam or write about Islam from 7th and 8th century of Arabic-speaking Christians to modern Orientalists. This document is really decisive break from colonialist or Orientalist mentality. And just I was talking to you yesterday, I read the Arabic version of the document, first Arabic version of the document. I feel I am reading Quranic, reciting the Quranic text. Scott, you understand, says, يَعْبُدُونَ اللَّهَ الْحَيَّ الْقَيُّومَ خَالِقِ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ. This is, they adore the God. They, the creator of the heaven and earth. And it is an amazing document. And for me, in short, the richest message this document gives is, I think the Catholic Church is a big church. Catholic community is a big community. And as Scott explained, original intention is really to discuss with Jewish and Judaism. But as a theologian, I believe God has a really plan, and God always wins at the end. His plan works very well. So this document is really groundbreaking document, inspirational document, and still we are discussing today. So therefore, it is really give hope for many religious communities. So I'm really glad these documents promulgated by Catholic Church and embrace other religious communities. And it does not mean that we are not denying the centrality of the Christianity, but this is the first documents really endorse culture of openness to recognize the holy and truth in other religious tradition. And I really admire this one.
Thanks, Ismail.